All right, we're getting started. Office hours for the next, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes to an hour. Um, Same format as always. If you have questions, ask them here in the YouTube chat, or if you're over on Discord, feel free to jump into the voice channel and you can ask there. So until somebody asks a question, we're just going to be hanging out.
Hello?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, thank God. Fine. So I have an issue over here. Could you help me out?
Yeah, so just real quick, letting you know that we're also live on YouTube, if that's all right.
Yeah, I was watching there.
Cool. All right,
I was gonna...
what's going on?
Yeah, keep it up. It's very nice of you to donate some of your time.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem.
Huh? Okay, so I guess I'll do screen share.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm, mm, okay, there you go. See it?
Yes.
Okay. So basically I have this app over here that it's basically like a it's Sakureo chat. And I'm having some issues with when I like want to send like an audio clip or something like that. So um, pull up my pull it up over here. Okay, so you see over here.
Mm-hmm.
So if I record the audio, it's gonna go. Uh, I don't know with Discord. I don't know if it's gonna like interrupt. Let's see. Hey, this is a test. Um, hey, this is a test. See what happens is it like basically smushes together the first and the second one, and sometimes it like doesn't even record at all.
Hmm. What are you using to record? Is it just a HTML5
Uh,
audio player?
Basically what I'm doing is I'm using some library. I forgot to. I made this project a while ago. It's basically it takes like a API with the audio and like it basically turns it into a blob and then it saves it like temporarily in memory or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you access it through a URL and then that URL is just temporarily available. And then I link that URL to the audio player and then I just append it to the list over there.
So you're trying to make kind of like a WhatsApp clone?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Um,
I mean,
so,
messaging and everything else works fine. I mean, I don't know how to screen. I like share the screen like at once, but whatever. Like if I have multiple people open up the same browser, then it would
mm-hmm. Yeah, I got you.
yeah.
Um, so are you able to figure out what the plugin is that you're using for the audio stuff? It may just be that it's not a very good plugin. You might have to either write it yourself or find one that works better.
It could be it's the built-in. Let me check 1 second. Here. Um. Uh, Here. So this is the client side over here. I'm
Mm-hmm.
using jQuery, and I think it's right here. Yeah, it's using like the built-in API.
Navigator, media devices, get user media, new recorder. And so when you're clicking play, is it playing the first one and then the second one, or is the second one a combination of the first and the second?
The second one is a combination of the first and the second. And sometimes it like doesn't even record at all. Like if I do it a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And either I show error or something, or like maybe like prevent it like in the first place.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Hmm. And were you just going off of the documentation, or is it a tutorial or pre-made application, or what?
I think I was going off a tutorial. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Hmm. So the tutorial, does it have source code that you can download and run to see if it behaves correctly?
I actually don't remember. This was a while ago.
Yeah.
But
So that
um,
that would be
but
my
I think
first
it's on.
move.
I think it's something related to the like defining the recorder right over here on
Mm-hmm.
line 90. I think it's something to do with that because like I think it's keeping it open, so it's like recording, like appending it to the recording or something like that.
Well, one thing that is happening for sure is you're overriding the recorder variable instead of creating a brand new one. I don't know if that's
That's
the
only
problem though.
once. It's only once in the program. Oh, whoops, it is. That's a
Like
good point.
on line 90, you don't have a let or a const keyword before the recorder variable. So there's a
Yeah,
recorder
which one?
variable that exists outside of the scope of that
Oh, this one
callback.
over here?
Hmm.
I wrote this a long time ago. That's pretty bad, probably.
So
That was like a year ago,
if you
maybe.
scroll upward, you should be able to find like a an instantiation right
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right
right
there.
over
There it
here.
is.
Uh,
I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but it might. So you might comment out line 15, but the thing is, are you using the recorder variable elsewhere outside of? Um,
that's the only thing I'm using it for. Um, so maybe I just defined it right over here, you think?
well, yeah, I mean, so you could potentially define it there one time and then never override it.
Yes,
But
let me
like
try this.
you're down there on line 80 something, yeah, right there. You're input audio context, create media stream source. You're creating the stream and then you're creating a new recorder. But then what do you do with the recorder? So like on 96, now you have the recorder and you're
So
recording.
this is basically when I click on the mouse button, then I do record that record, and that records it,
Mm-hmm.
and then when mouse up, it stops recording, and then you export it as a blob and whatever.
Mm-hmm. So what may need to happen is you might need to write a function that wraps up all the recording stuff. It might
Just
just be that
organize
like
it.
yeah, I mean it might just be that you have like one recorder and somehow you're using the same recorder twice. So it's like starting it and then stopping it and then starting it again. And so it's just appending the second one on top of the first one. So you want
Right,
to,
fine. So I'll cut it out from here, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, potentially, or just every time you're going to record, just create a brand new recorder.
I've been putting let. So like here, okay. I'll put it here. Um, yeah. What about the navigator thingy?
I don't think what you're doing right now is going to work. I think you're going to still have the same problem. You can test it and find out.
Because all this is being run on the socket when it connects.
Mm-hmm.
So all this. Wait, where is it? Oh, there it is. So it's being run. Yeah, right over here. I should actually put it to the top, maybe.
So
Let me do that.
look, before you do anything else, on line
Yeah.
96, you have an event listener for mouse down on the record button, and you're saying, hey, when the record button is mouse down and you're holding the mouse down, go ahead and record audio. And
Yeah.
then you have the same thing for mouse up. If you scroll down,
Yeah.
you're saying, okay, now that the mouse is up, stop it and export the wave. But
Yeah.
then if you go mouse down again, it starts recording again. Is it still recording on the same original recording? What you want to do is make sure that every time they go mouse down, it creates a brand new recording. It's not like appending it to an old recording.
Oh, I see. But I think once it exports wave, I think in the tutorial he said like automatically clears it or something like that. Or even when you stop. I forgot.
I would look up the
Oh
documentation to
yeah,
be
here,
sure.
right, right here, right here. 125, it says recorded that clear. That's I think
Hmm.
that function does.
Okay, so you got to make sure that that line is getting run also.
So how do I ensure that?
So if you scroll upwards, just look at lines 101 all the way through the bottom of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right, that's it. Yeah, you might have to zoom out just a little bit. Okay, so you're saying on mouse up, stop the recorder, export the wave. Okay, then that has a callback that returns a blob. That line ends, and then you do the recorder.clear. But here's the problem: export wave is an asynchronous call. That's why it has a callback with the function. And so recorder.clear is probably getting run at the same time, like instantaneously with
Oh, so it's a race
recorder.wave.
condition? It's a race condition?
So what you
Because
need
it
to
does work
do
sometimes.
is you need to move recorder.clear up inside of the audio add event listener load metadata. It needs to happen right after line 122. So move it from 125 to
So it
right
has to be inside
below,
of here?
yes, right below 122.
Right here?
Mm-hmm.
Or I could just make it a wait, but
Yeah, you
okay.
could
Just do that?
potentially if it returns a promise. But so give that a try and see if that resolves the issue.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. Yeah, I'm just gonna mute myself for a second. Just
Mm-hmm.
okay. So right there is the type error. Cannot read property context is undefined.
Yeah, go up to line 56.
56. What?
No, go all the way up to the top where you define the recorder.
Yeah, right here.
So that it doesn't know what input is. That's the problem. So you have to put it back how it was before, where you had let recorder and then semicolon and then recorder is equal to new recorder.
So
So
let me check where input is. Let me check what it is.
input doesn't
Whoops.
happen until an event happens.
Right, but no, this is input right here. So I have to
Yes.
put it inside this callback, so it has to be there, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you move the whole entire thing out, right? That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
No, just put it back how it was.
Okay, fine. Um. see. Like that.
Yeah, then just go back up to the top and put a semicolon.
Yeah,
Oh,
I did.
you got it. You're all set. Yeah, it should work.
Uh-huh. Okay, let me try it again. Okay, so it seems to be working now.
Good.
Um, yeah, but sometimes like it didn't even record at all. It just had like zero
Yeah,
time and
the
like
reason
yeah.
it did that is because it cleared the recording before it was ever able to stream it. Because those two lines of code were happening asynchronously.
Oh, clearing it, so like it can't export it anymore. So
Correct.
that's why
It
like
like
messed
it,
it up.
yeah, it cleared the recording before it ever made it to the export step.
Okay. So I guess it's done now. Let me
Sweet.
just test, let me just test it with a different client just to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just do Edge because I have a session inside there, Express session. Uh, Okay, cool. Looks like it works.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Absolutely, no problem.
Yeah, and how would it prevent something like that from happening? Like a race condition, like how would I know? It's
You just gotta audit your code and look for something that's
so you just
ba-
have to do it by eye?
yeah. I mean, there's different debugging techniques. You can log stuff. Like you could have potentially logged the recording to see like why it was getting deleted, but um, with just if you're ever fooling with callbacks and stuff, just make sure that the code is all inside of the nested callbacks. Otherwise, if you put something right after it, you can never guarantee that it's going to get run, or it will get run, but you can't guarantee on the timing.
So what about a wait inside of a browser? Will it not work?
Yeah. As long as it returns a promise, then you can use async await.
Oh, you're saying if anyone's using promises, just use a wait?
If
Like it
the
won't break
function
anything?
returns a promise, then you can await it.
Right, but like Internet Explorer is not gonna like not work?
Oh, I don't know. In terms of compatibility, you can always use something like Babel to make sure that it transpiles out to ES5.
Yeah, what exactly is Babel?
Babel's a transpiler. Basically, you write your code in ES6, ES7, blah blah blah, the newer ECMAScript syntax, and then you run this transpiler either manually or automatically every time a file saves, and it will take the code that you write and convert it to a version of JavaScript, ECMAScript 5, that all browsers, including older ones, can understand.
Okay,
And
thanks
Babel's
so
not the
much.
only one. There's other ones too, but Babel's one of the popular ones.
Right, but like people use it these days?
Yes.
Okay, bye.
Cool, man. Take care.
Mm.
All right. So we started at 120. It's now we're going on 20 minutes or so. Stick around for a little while longer. If anybody has any questions, we can dive into it. Um, if not, then we will shut it down until next time. Levinson, glad to hear that you're finding value from this. Yeah, I mean, that's what programming is just, writing all the code that you think, it should have for a program to work, and then when the program's not working, debugging it, figuring out why it's not working. Of course, there's other ways to kind of mitigate that sort of thing. You can write tests beforehand. Like you expect your program to do something, and then when it doesn't do something, it's a lot easier to figure out which part of the program is causing the issue. In this case, we did what's called like error driven. This wasn't even necessarily error driven. It was more of like there was that one error in the console, so that kind of clued me into like, oh, it's not able to see input. That means that the parameter that's getting passed into this record instance isn't available, right? And so then we knew we had to move the code down inside the callback that had that argument inside the callback function, yada yada. But in terms of like the async stuff, that's just stuff that you learn over time. But yeah, that's what it's all about. It's figuring out problems. So one thing that I thought would be interesting to build with JavaScript is a time zone map. So you take a flattened map of the entire world, and then for each one of the time zones, I mean, we're looking at it. This is the example. This is like exactly what I was thinking. I thought about it last night, and I just now looked it up, and of course, somebody else has done it. But I think this would be a good exercise. So like, you just mouse over each of these time zones, and there's like these little red dots. So ideally, I would think that you would want it to like, as you go over each one, it tells you the time somewhere. But in this case, like you have to actually go over the city. So Anchorage, it's today, Friday at 10:41, and then you go up to Fairbanks, also 10:41. So like if you were to go over to the Central Time Zone, I think it would get you to. It's interesting. It has like it's weird. Some of the places it has in here. Central Daylight, Central Daylight. Oh, it's daylight time. I'm over here like typing CST and all my messages. Chicago. So Chicago's the main one that people normally go off of for Central Daylight, as far as I know. But apparently there's all these other ones in here that you can mouse over. So it's a pretty cool little app. You could definitely build something like this with like maybe D3.js or what's that other one? Canvas, maybe SVG. We can inspect this thing and see if we can kind of reverse engineer it. So this is interesting. This is just a map JPEG. So this is just a JPEG, and then the overlays, let's see. It looks like the overlays are just inside of divs. And it's constantly updating. So here's this TMZ layer. Oh, interesting. What is this? ctadst.com, ctadst.com. Oh, so that's interesting. They have like this like sprite type thing. Yeah, it's like PNGs layered on top of other PNGs. So this is one way to do it. They're just using like divs with PNGs. I don't know if this is a pre-made library or if this is just something that somebody wrote, but it's pretty dope. Anyway, I would be interested to see, like, this would be a cool project to build and then put on your portfolio. If you're looking for a product idea, build a time zone map with overlays. It doesn't have to have all these little markers. Like, you could just have it to where, like, when you overlay, it's going to tell you what the current time is based off of UTC, right? So, pretty cool little project. I would definitely be interested. Oh, that's cool. The ones on the end. It's weird that. So look at these lines. They're like, some stuff falls into. So it's not like once you start getting to the outsides of the globe, or whatever, the back of the globe, front of the globe, the time zone's not like perfectly vertical. So that's confusing, and the fact that they were able to like put that into this tool is pretty dope. And then they have a city lookup, so if you could put like, if you want to look up like Cairo, it puts a little marker on it. That's awesome. Cool. Anyway, I think that's neat. I would definitely explore that as a personal project to put on your resume or portfolio if anybody's interested in that kind of thing.
I have a quick question for you.
What's that?
How would I implement like live streaming audio without the person being able to download it? So like the problem is if I like try to use a HTML5 audio player, it's gonna enable them to download it. So like, is there any way I could like stream audio?
I'm sure there's a plugin or something out there that you can use. So streaming audio, you don't want them to be able to download it. Can you just disable the download feature of the HTML5 audio player?
Yeah, they can easily just go to the URL and just download it like that.
What's the problem with them downloading it?
The same reason why Spotify doesn't allow you to download it. They just like, let's say I want to make a podcast or something, like I want them like to contact me if they want to buy it, but just like let them listen for free.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's interesting. I'm not entirely sure how you would solve that problem. Something tells me, like most coding issues, it's already been solved somewhere. So I would just do a little bit of research and see if you can find an audio streaming library that has that functionality built in. And then if you don't want to use that and you want to build it yourself, you can always just kind of reverse engineer it and try to figure out how they did it, especially if it's open source.
Yeah, what if I have a lot of files and like I want to like open it to people? Like how would I store it?
Cloudinary is one way. I mean, you can put it on any host, any server. Um, you
Yeah, but
just
Cloudinary, I think they have like a limit of 5 GB or something.
I mean, you might end up having to pay for it if you have a lot of space that you're using.
I was just saying you can probably have to pay for it. Like,
Yeah, if they're huge files, or if you have a lot of files and all together they make up a lot of space. But you could just put it on your own server. You don't have to use something like Cloudinary.
all right, but like, could I use it with Google Drive? Like, is there a way to like embed it or something like that?
Possibly, I'm sure that there's a like I don't think you're going to be able to get the streaming feature that you're looking for. At least not the because once people have the link on Google Drive, unless you have some type of permissions that you can put on there, then there's a good chance they can get it. But by the way, don't like think about this. How difficult is it for someone to record the output from their speakers on
Right,
their
but
computer?
it's not the full quality though.
Right,
Spotify.
it's true. You're not going to get the MP3 quality or whatever, but there's only so much you can do to stop people from copying, downloading, whatever.
Right,
Like,
but if it's for a client, then like you just want to show them like you tried your best. You can't really do anything about it.
absolutely, for sure. Um, I mean, the other thing is Spotify probably has an API. They could just put their podcast on Spotify, and then you could stream it from Spotify on your website directly.
Right, but there's like mixed contents, like articles and like pictures and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying you should just use Cloudinary? That's like the best option.
I have no idea because I haven't done it before, but my inclination would be to research and see what other people are doing. That's what I always do when I start something new that I haven't done. I look to see what other people have done, and if
Well,
they
like on
use
GitHub or something.
yeah, exactly, for open source stuff on GitHub, or if it's not open source, maybe possibly if depending on how they wrote it, you can like look at their front end code and kind of take a peek at how they did it that way. But you just have to remind yourself that these are all problems that people have solved before many times over. So there's a solution out there somewhere.
It's like a quick Google search that should help.
You said it.
Okay.
Cool, man. Good luck.
You do.
Appreciate it. So Saul is asking if the map that I was showing a little while ago is an API. It probably taps into APIs. They may have preloaded some of all that data, but basically it's just a map of the world, and then they have like all the main like big cities or whatever in each time zone, and then you can mouse over those markers and you can get the current time, like right now, all over the world. So does it use APIs? Probably. If it doesn't, I mean, it has to, unless their server is the one supplying that data, in which case it's still using the API. But when you say API, you're probably talking about like a third-party API, and it probably is using some type of third-party API, unless they're the ones that have that data and they're streaming it or whatever from their API endpoints. So one way or another, the answer is yes. Can we upload YelpCamp project on GitHub, or there needs to be more files added on Gitignores? Okay. if secret is not in the env file. So you're welcome to put yupcamp on GitHub. Make sure that you put the node modules directory and the .env file into your git ignore, and then go through your application and make sure that there's no sensitive information hard-coded into it, like emails, passwords, secret keys, API keys, things of that nature. Anything like that needs to go into the env file so that when it goes on GitHub, other people aren't able to steal your credentials and hack into and use your APIs or use your email, things like that. All right, so we're right at 30 minutes. I think we're going to go ahead and shut it down for today unless anybody has any last minute questions. If you do, go ahead and ask them now. Yep, no problem. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate it.
Yeah, how would I store a database like without memory leaks? Because it's giving me a warning.
Yep, I can show you how to do that. So, let me switch over here. So,
Yeah, just screen share if you don't mind, or whatever.
Are you watching on YouTube?
Yeah, I'll go there right now.
Okay. So basically, you're going to go to expressjs.com, assuming that you're using Express for the framework. And then performance best practices. And where is it? It may not be in here. It may be maybe in security best practices. Where is it? Is it under cookies? Here we go. So under use cookies securely inside the security best practices on expressjs.com, you're going to go down to this right here, and it's basically telling you that Express session middleware stores session data on the server. It only saves session ID on the cookie itself, not session data by default. It uses in-memory, this is the issue by the way, in-memory storage, and is not designed for a production environment. In production, you'll need to set up a scalable session store. You can see a list of session stores right here. Okay. In contrast, cookie session middleware implements cookie-based storage. It serializes the entire session to the cookie rather than just a session key. Only use it when session data is relatively small and easily encoded as a primitive value or as primitive values rather than objects. So although browsers are supposed to support at least 4096 bytes per cookie, to ensure you don't exceed the limit, don't exceed a size of 4093 bytes per domain. Also be aware that the cookie data will be visible to the client, so if there's any reason to keep it secure or obscure, then Express Session may be a better choice. So yes, you can use cookie session, but by default you are using Express Session, and just make sure that you go link it up to a compatible session store. What happened? There was a link somewhere and I clicked the wrong one. Here we go. So compatible session stores right here on the Express.js session documentation. You can decide, there's a ton of them to choose from, but the main ones that I think you'd be interested in are the ones that use MongoDB. So you can use connect MongoDB session, it has 143 stars. Connect dash
But wouldn't it be
Mongo.
like redundant, like just to set up a whole entire like database just for sessions?
You can store the sessions on your regular database and just use that connection.
Right, but let's say my project doesn't have a database.
Then you need
Wouldn't
to
be
set
like
one up.
So you're just saying set up a whole entire database for sessions?
Otherwise, it's storing it on the server's memory, and there's not enough of that allocated for sessions.
But you just said it was being stored in a cookie.
No, there's two options. One of them is cookie, which is should only be used if you're storing really small cookies that don't have secure information in them.
You said, I forgot the whole point of sessions was to store on the server side, right?
Correct. And so your options here are vast. There's all types of different session stores. I preferably always go with MongoDB, but there's a bunch of others. You can use Redis, which is super popular, 2.49 thousand, so quite a few there. And then
But
Connect
is that
Mongo
actual
systems.
database?
It's a session store.
Oh, it's like made specifically for
So
sessions?
sort of. So Redis is just like a key pair session store. It's very simple, and it is perfect for storing sessions. It can be used for other stuff, but it's just another type of data persistence.
But it saves it on disk?
It's going to store it on your server, if I'm not mistaken.
But
Which
how? Like on the file system or like on a special database? Like like
it's
MongoDB.
it stores it on Redis. Redis is the name of the software.
Right, but just like Mongo, like Mongo like has their own shell and whatever.
Right. So Mongo, if like let's say you're connected to Mongo Cloud or Atlas or whatever it's called, then it's going to store the sessions on your Atlas database, which is not on your server. But unless there's some type of Redis service, which I'm not aware of, you would install Redis onto the server where all your files are also stored, and then it would store it there. But if you don't have any experience setting up or using Redis, then I would recommend using Connect Mongo.
Like if you're anyways using Mongo, just why not?
Hmm.
Like if you're anyways using Mongo, just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if you're not using Mongo, if you're familiar with it, I would use it. It's super straightforward. They have the usage docs right here. It tells you everything you need to do. But that'll solve the memory leak issue.
So what exactly is a memory leak?
So, uh, as far as I know, it's probably like if there's not enough space on memory, then it will like end up losing some of the things it's stored already to make space for new ones. That's just an uneducated guess, but
The
you
worst
can.
comes worst comes worst. The user just gonna have to log in again, so it's not like terrible.
Not necessarily. So if you want to read about it on, uh, we can look at the consequences here on Wikipedia. So a memory leak reduces the performance of the computer by reducing the amount of available memory. Eventually, in the worst case, too much of the available memory may become allocated and all or part of the system or device stops working correctly. The application fails and the system slows down vastly due to what's called thrashing.
So it's like basically when you make a variable, you have to assign the place in memory. So it's basically the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, basically, what it's saying is that memory is not the right tool for the job. If you're just using your local computer and you have an application that you're starting up and then shutting down when you're done working, it'll suffice. But the moment you get into a production server, you need to have a dedicated data store to handle your sessions. Because think about it, I mean, depending on how popular your website becomes, you could have quite a few sessions being stored simultaneously. Plus,
It's
sessions
like
have a
storing
much
it. It's like storing an array on your website for instead of your database.
it's like storing an array of a ton of objects, and then they need to think about it because sessions don't expire for weeks, months at a time until you set them to expire or they have a
If you shut your
default.
server down, all the everything gets wiped out.
Hmm?
Like if you shut down your application or you shut down your server, like everything gets wiped.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to shut down the server and then restart it, then it would start fresh. But
Or even restart the application.
look, dude, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's easier to use something like Connect Mongo or Redis than to just try and bypass it and let there be a memory leak in your application.
Yeah, I was just making sure. Yeah, I know I'm gonna use it, but just want to understand thoroughly.
Yeah, definitely. Like, don't try to get around it because you create problems for yourself later on down the road. But under advanced topics, security best practices, compatible session stores under use cookies securely. That is the link that you want to go to. This one right here. I can send it to you in a DM.
Also, Colt mentioned something about secret key, like you shouldn't use it. So I'm wondering, like, what's a correct secret key you should use? Like, you just go to random generator, like string generator, just put in
Well,
an environment variable.
what are you talking about?
Like, when you define a session object, you have to specify a secret. And Colt mentions that this is not a good idea. You should, I don't know. Like, he said you should do something else. You shouldn't do it like this. So I'm wondering what's the correct way.
Well, I don't know what he said. I mean, you're being kind of broad. If you knew exactly what he said, that would help. But if you're
He
talking
basically
about,
he basically said a string as a secret variable. He said change this, but
yeah.
basically he said you
So
shouldn't do.
okay, cool. So what he's saying is like, if you're gonna have a secret for your cookie, and then you just put it as a hard coded string, and then you push that code to GitHub or elsewhere, where it's publicly available for people to look at. If someone really truly wanted to like hack into your stuff, then that would be helpful for them. So what you would do to mitigate that, like anything else that's sensitive inside of your code base, you would want to put that inside of a environment variable, and then you'd want to put that inside of a .env file, and then just export it with something like .env. That way, or if you're using Heroku, they have their own system in the dashboard for exporting environment variables. But essentially what he's probably saying is you don't want to just hard code the string. You want to take the string, whatever it may be, and put it into an environment variable and then export it for use in your application.
So it could even be like a string that says change this, and as long as you put an environment variable, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it could be taco and it would work, but just think about how passwords work, like in terms of this, the more the shorter they are, the faster they're going to be. A computer would be able to like brute force attack it, right?
So like just go to a random string generator and just pick one out from there.
Yeah, you could do that if you want to. It's one way to do
Well,
it.
it's probably a method or something. Yeah, it should be a method.
Yeah, I mean, you can look up what constitutes a secure password, and you'll find like what what's stronger than others.
Right.
Cool, man. Anything else?
I have one last thing if you have time.
What's up?
Um, was mentioning something about like trust proxy, like in the on the page in Express. So I was wondering what was that about.
That's a good question. So, uh, right here says don't use default session cookie name. Using the default session cookie name can open your app to attacks. The security issue posed is similar to an X powered by. A potential attacker can use it to fingerprint the server and target attacks accordingly. To avoid this problem, use generic cookie names. For example, using Express Session middleware, you require the session, and then this is saying trust first proxy, so we'll get back to that in a second. And then here it's just telling you to use a unique secret. So this trust proxy thing, let's look that up. So someone is asking essentially what you just asked. As I said, this is explained in detail in the Express Behind the Proxies guide. So there's a link to that on the Express website here. So when running an Express app behind a reverse proxy, some of the Express APIs may return different values than expected. In order to adjust for this, the trust proxy application setting may be used to expose information provided by the reverse proxy in the Express APIs. The most common issue is Express APIs that expose the client's IP address may instead show an internal IP address of the reverse proxy. So when configuring the trust proxy setting, it is important to understand the exact setup of the reverse proxy. Since this setting will trust values provided in the request, it is important that the combination of the settings in Express matches how the reverse proxy operates. So let's go back to this person's explanation. By enabling trust proxy setting via app.enable trust proxy, Express will have knowledge that it is sitting behind a proxy and that the X forwarded asterisk header fields may be trusted, which otherwise may be easily spoofed. Enabling this setting has
Well,
several
what's a
subtle
proxy?
effects. So, a proxy is a way that you can set up your server. Um, let's get an official.
Like Nginx or something like that?
Mm-hmm. So, a
So
proxy
basically, just
server,
it's like a front for your website or something, like a front for your server.
sort of. So, this person's saying you might be using a proxy server at your office on a virtual private network. You could be one of the more tech savvy who always uses a proxy server of some kind or another. And so here's your answer right here. Proxy server acts as a gateway between you and the internet. It's an intermediary server separating end users from the websites they browse. Proxy servers providing varying levels of functionality, security, and privacy depending on your use case, needs, or company policy. So essentially, it's just like a gateway that is filtering things going in both directions, saying, um, like down here, it says a proxy server acts like a firewall and a web filter, and it can also provide shared network connections, cache data, speed up comment requests, etc.
Right, but if it's just relaying the data from our web server to the internet, so like why don't just do it directly?
It just depends on what the scope of your project is. If you want to protect certain aspects of what gets out and what gets in, then you'd want to use
Right,
a
you can
proxy.
easily do that with Express. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, once you get more into creating your own server, because a lot of this stuff is handled for you, it's kind of abstracted away from you with something like Heroku, for instance. But if you were to create a server on something like DigitalOcean and you're using Nginx or what have you, then you can really get into the nuts and bolts of customizing things. So again, it just comes down to what exactly you're trying to do and how much privacy you want associated with your application going in and coming out.
But how would I enable people to access my proxy server from like the outside?
So
Like let's say,
so when you set
yeah.
up the server on something like DigitalOcean, they'll give you all the code that you need to set it up and to connect it to your application, and then um, you can go in there and you can make whatever adjustments that you need. But uh, when you're setting up your server on something like DigitalOcean, or if you're setting it up yourself from a home server or any service that like a VPS that allows you to do everything from the shell, then there's certain commands that you'll run and there's certain configuration files that you'll create that will point things and connect things together and add in whatever extra security you want and so on.
Right, but what if I have a server in my house? How would somebody else in New York, let's say, how would they access it?
So if you have a server running from your house, then it's probably going to be accessible from the IP for your modem and then a certain port number that you make accessible.
So yeah, I should just do port forwarding, you're saying?
Not necessarily. I mean, this is kind of a deeper topic. It's not like a simple cut and dry answer, because you just jumped from what is a proxy server to like how do I make a server at my house available to other people. What are you trying to do exactly?
I'm trying to set up a like a website server, but like I don't want to do it with like a Linode or something. I just want to do it in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that port forwarding is not that safe, so I'm just like wondering what is. Like somebody said like SSH or something, like reverse. Like I didn't really understand what that is. And
Mm-hmm.
I know what SSH is, but like I don't know like what they were saying.
So what I would recommend is that you find this one's not super up to date, but it may not need to be. But find a tutorial for setting up a home server. I would do it Linux based. That's going to give you the most customization. So of course you're going to want to install some distro of Linux onto the server, the computer that you're going to act as your server. There's all different types of Linux distros. Some of them, like Ubuntu server, are going to be more geared towards being a dedicated server machine. Others are going to be, geared towards other stuff like more creative stuff like web design and graphics and things like that. So if you're really interested in this stuff, I would find a guide. And there's probably some YouTube videos out there for sure. But there's a lot. The Linux community is huge, and there's a lot of resources available for how to set up your first server. And then once you get that running, then you can kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the security side of things and how to make it, customize it to make it as secure as you want it to be.
Okay, yeah, I gotta go now.
Just know that the speed, the bandwidth for that server is going to be restricted by whatever your local internet service allows you to have. So your ISP is going to restrict you in certain ways.
Okay, yeah, thanks for everything. I gotta go now.
Cool. Have a good one. Thanks for stopping
Yeah,
by.
yeah, you're welcome. Goodbye.
Bye. So Saul's asking when the next office hour is. I'm gonna try and do them every day, except probably take a break on Saturdays and maybe even Saturdays and Sundays. So I'm gonna try doing 5 days a week. I mean, this one's already almost an hour, so they usually go for about an hour. Some of them may be shorter, but 1:30 is a good time for me because that's when the kiddos are napping, so it's quiet around the house. Um, so the next question, so Saul, the next time that we're gonna do one, possibly Sunday, but probably more likely Monday. London Sky is why learn Node if there's only a few hosting for this. There's actually lots of hosting available for it. Um, just the cheaper like PHP shared hosting services are more like uh, present and like available and broadcasted because that's what most people understand, right? They like more people are just building WordPress websites and just dabbling with web design or web development than are like code savvy people. So it's not to say that there's not a lot of hosting options. You just have to understand how to install Node on something like a virtual private server, or find a service that has it pre-installed for you, like A2 or DigitalOcean or Linode. I don't even know if Linode has Node hosting, but Heroku, and there's several others. So what if I'm using 60 megabytes from 500? Is it still enough memory? I'm not sure what you're using it for or how you're using it. If you're talking about sessions, again, the recommendation is not to use your memory for sessions. So what is this office hours for? It's just for students to jump on and ask questions, and get help with their coding questions, career questions relating to web development or programming, anything of that nature. Do I know, listen to, or know of any developer podcasts? Not really. He's not a developer. Well, he might know how to code. I don't know. But the CEO of AppSumo he does office hours like this. He does them on Fridays. I think he already did his today. He's more of like marketing, like helping people get started with like their startups. But I think he could also comment on the coding side of things. He was like number, I don't know, 7 or 20 or something at Facebook, and then I don't think he was a developer though. I think he was a marketing guy. Anyway, that guy's name is Noah Kagan, Noahkagan. I think he's got a YouTube channel. Current CEO or whatever of AppSumo, I think is his company. His stuff's good. There's another guy that I keep up with a little bit. Justin Kahn, I think his name is, or is it Jason Kahn? I think it's Justin. Anyway, he's the CEO of. He was the CEO of Twitch. I think he sold Twitch. I mean, he may still be the CEO. I don't know. But anyway, he's the guy that started Twitch and Jason TV, stuff like that. So those guys are kind of cool to follow because they're like super rich people that are like down to earth and like have a lot of good advice for people who are starting out. So that's cool. I can appreciate that for sure. Lots of good value they provide, lots of insight, lots of good advice, and most of, if not all of it, is free. Um, I'm always wary of people that are like selling, you know, like high ticket courses where they're offering these secrets or whatever. And then there's like super cool people like Justin and Noah who are just like, yeah, like here's some of my experience and hopefully it's helpful to you. And they want to see people who are starting out thrive and do well. So I would check them out. I don't know that I would necessarily call them podcasts. They may be on podcasts, but they have YouTube. Someone said, why not Twitch? I'm not sure what you're asking, but that guy Justin, let me look him up real quick. I'll share both their channels. Oh, yeah, here he is right here in my, I think they're both in my homepage. So here's the Justin Con, or vlog, I think, okay. And then the other guy that I mentioned is Noah Kagan. Both cool dudes. Worth checking out, I would say. Is it good to learn JavaScript because they say it will replace VBA and Excel? So yeah, not just for that reason though. I would recommend learning JavaScript for a plethora of reasons. You know, it's just such a versatile coding language, and there's so many things you can do with it. So and it's imperative that you know it if you're going to be a web developer. But even you can use it for something like Excel or Google Sheets. So yeah, JavaScript's where it's at. I would definitely recommend learning it. All right, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thanks for all the questions. Stay tuned in the community wall and Discord server if you're over there for WDB for future office hours. So generally 1:30 p.m. Oh, why am I not streaming on Twitch? I think I have a Twitch account. I've never streamed on it, but I could do that. I wonder if I could stream to Twitch and YouTube. Like right now, we're doing Discord and YouTube simultaneously, which is kind of cool. I wonder if I could stream on all three of them. That'd be dope. Anyway, thanks for suggesting that. I can definitely check it out and try it out. I haven't done it previously, but I'm happy to look into it. Anyway, thanks everyone for coming. Stay tuned. Oh, you can do both. Perfect. Well, I'll look into it for sure. Thanks, Amelia. That's really good to know. I literally have used Twitch like once in my life. I live in Texas. Texas? No problem. Thanks everyone for showing up. Gonna go ahead and disconnect from Discord and disconnect from streaming.